All right, man, peace. So now this is going to be part 3 on the Magic Johnson and Isiah Thomas sit down, rejuvenation, revival of their relationship, which is a great thing for both of them. They both needed it, particularly Isiah Thomas, as will be shown at the end of their sit down or their interview, his interview of Magic. He certainly is the one who seemed to miss the relationship more, but I think that it will provide healing for the both of them. Anyway, when we left off, I was talking about Dennis Johnson and my belief that he should be in the Hall of Fame, certainly over Tracy McGrady. Dennis Johnson is a player that I would classify as an all-time great role player. And I've touched on this sentiment in the past. I've had people come and tell me that Scottie Pippen was not a role player. And they'll mention how Scottie led the Bulls to 50-plus wins after Jordan retired. And, the same jargon that people who never saw that era spew, out of context, of course. Dennis Johnson is a guy who won a championship on Seattle. To me, he's still a role player on an all-time great team. When I consider role players, I consider their role on an all-time great team. If you were not the lead guy, to me, you were a role player, unless you're on a team where you happen to share a partnership. Like, for example, Shaq and Kobe was a partnership. Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, that's a partnership. Jordan and Pippen, to me, that clearly was not a partnership. Jordan was clearly the lead guy. Clearly. And for Pippen to have transcended that, he would have had to have had an elongated time period of dominance by himself. Kobe was able to dominate by himself. So I can't put him in that class. But back to Dennis Johnson, to me, he certainly deserves to be in the Hall of Fame over or before T-Mac. But there are a litany of guys that I believe deserve to be in the Hall of Fame before T-Mac. Once again, nothing against him and nothing personal. I have love for the brother. I think he was a phenomenal scorer. But he couldn't even get out of the first round. And people will say, well, how could you look? To me, for you to be a first ballot Hall of Famer and you never won shit, you had to have at least gotten out the first round off your exploits. You must have had a transcendent moment in the playoffs, at least one. He never had one. At least Grant Hill will get his team out of the first round.
And the only way I was able to come back through all of that is because I had watched you go through it.
Yeah.
And I had watched you persevere.
Mm-hmm.
And learning how you described that pain and how you just kept going and kept going. So then I said to myself, I got to get up.
Mm-hmm.
And people forget, in the aftermath of him throwing that ball away, which cost him that series against the Celtics, he also fell into the controversy over Larry Bird, where Dennis Rodman stated that if Larry Bird was black, he'd just be another player. And Isiah Thomas co-signed that. Now, down the line, Isiah Thomas has tried to separate himself from his statements, which to me is consistent with a personality trait that he has, a passive-aggressive personality trait where he tries to come off as a nice guy. But, if that's how he feels, that's how he feels. It's not the truth, but if that's how he feels, that's how he feels. Sometimes hyper-competitive people have to tell themselves certain things so that they can get up to conquer. That's okay. But he did fall into that chasm after that event in which he threw the ball away to Bird. There was a lot of sour grapes in the aftermath of that series. And I say all that to say that is why I believe it was so easy for Magic to believe that Isiah Thomas was involved in rumor spreading in regards to how Magic got HIV.
But I don't know if I would ever had the strength to get up had I not been able to recall the memory of you getting up. You know what I'm saying?
That's why we were in each other's lives. It was a reason.
Right.
Right? I knew your struggle. That's why I didn't say nothing. Right?
I was mad.
I know you were.
But I was so hurt.
Yeah, well,
You also didn't say anything because what else was you going to say? I mean, the man choked. There's not much to say if somebody choke. It's the same reason why Isiah Thomas said he didn't say anything to you after the 84 series against the Celtics. What is he going to say? All right, brother, you choked. Just work out in the offseason.
You Isiah.
I just like you. I had never made that mistake.
That's what I'm saying. Your level of excellence is so high, and then we hold ourselves accountable. So we don't need a coach to hold us accountable.
Yeah.
We're going to hold ourselves accountable. And that's who we were. But what people didn't realize.
And also, both of these players were coaches on the floor. So like Magic said, they didn't need a coach to hold them accountable.
Realize about us is that we put so much love and time in this game.
Let me also say, LeBron James is a modern-day coach on the floor. There's no doubt about that. All right, so now Magic and Isiah are going to talk about their wars in the NBA Finals in 88 and 89.
I tell you, it's incredible that we were with each other.
Incredible. Unbelievable.
With each other when we both lost, when we both made mistakes, when we both said we got to go to another level, right? And then we end up playing against each other.
1988.
Isiah and Magic. Bill, what kind of game can you anticipate here?
Well, one thing for sure, they won't be talking to each other once that ball goes up in the air.
Kyrie, they think all the dudes dribbling now? That was you already there.
Yeah.
That was you. When we on tour, some dude thought he could guard you. You said, what?
Yeah.
Come here.
Michael Jordan's on record as saying that Isiah Thomas was the greatest player that he had to guard or that he ever had to defend.
And back then, if you did all that in the NBA, they beat you up.
Exactly.
Be like, hey, don't do that.
Exactly. Crossover, the things that you could do, you had Tim Hardaway's crossover. Kyrie, what he doing? Steph, what he doing? I was telling people, I said, man, stop. I saw a dude do all of that. And then did it against my Lakers on one leg. Who scores 25 points on one leg in the fourth quarter?
Well, actually, he scored 25 in the third quarter. And really, they should have won that series. Detroit was the better team in that series. It's just that the Lakers had much more experience, and they just understood how to win the finals, much better than the Detroit Pistons did at that time. That series is very reminiscent of a lot of the heavyweight boxing title defenses that Muhammad Ali had in the mid to late 70s, where you could tell he just beat his opponent on guile. Like when he fought Ron Lyle or a couple of other fights that he was able to steal down the stretch, just because he understood how to win those type of fights. The Lakers won in 88 just because of their experience. They really were not the better team. And then on top of that, had Isiah Thomas not gotten hurt, I believe they would have lost. I believe they would have lost in 6 anyway.
Someone who was inspired by you.
In the championship.
No,
really.
It's like we never really got a chance to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I admired, we was tough, and we was having our way with y'all,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we go back to the Silverdome.
And when he said we was having our way with y'all, the Lakers could not guard the Detroit Piston guards. Once again, their 3 guards, Isiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, and Vinnie Johnson, they all had great handle, and they all could play point guard or shooting guard. So what Chuck Daly would do is ride the hot hand. Whoever was hot would be the person who they fed the ball through. For example, the next season in 89, Joe Dumars totally destroyed the Lakers. That's why he got the MVP for those finals. He was unbelievable. Nobody could guard him. And they had 3 players like that.
And
that's not to say that Vinnie Johnson was, as good as those 2 other guys. But in spurts, Vinnie Johnson was like his era's Jamal Crawford.
And Riley, I think, issued the challenge to you personally. Magic, you got to do something about Isiah. Y'all friends, y'all kissing, da-da-da-da, right? And I never forget, I was coming down the lane, and you ain't even go for the ball. You just like, boom, knock me out of the air.
Thomas, hit by Magic Johnson.
And let me say this. That shows you the importance of having a coach that understands how powerful psychological manipulation can be. Because had Isiah Thomas taken that same blow from any other of the LA Lakers, it would not have affected him psychologically like it did getting hit by Magic Johnson. Pat Riley understood that in order for the Lakers to have a chance to compete against the Pistons, who he understood were the younger, fresher, more motivated team, he had to break that bond between Magic Johnson and Isiah Thomas. And he decided to break it by forcing Magic Johnson to make a decision. And Pat Riley understood that it definitely had to be Magic, because if it was any other player, it would not have had the same effect on Isiah Thomas. Pat Riley knew that in order for them to win that 1988 finals, it had to be Magic Johnson that hit Isiah Thomas, because he had to fracture that relationship. Even if they continued to kiss before the game and all that other stuff, that would only be ceremonial. Pat Riley understood that the rapport between Magic Johnson and Isiah Thomas was highly emotional. And in order for him to break that emotional bond, he had to traumatize their relationship by having Magic Johnson be the one to hit Isiah Thomas. And once again, that is why it is essential for a coach of a championship level team to understand psychological manipulation. That is why you'll often see coaches like Chuck Daly and Greg Popovich who have a CIA background. Phil Jackson having a background in Zen Buddhism, which allows him to be able to assist his players in ascending to higher levels of mental functionality through meditation. Very important.
Hit by Magic Johnson. Look who he pushes. His best buddy.
I turned around and I pushed you.
And got up swinging. You just didn't push. You got up swinging.
Well, I should have.
but you swing it up.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I hated it.
Look at Joe Dumars' face. Joe Dumars has aggravated Isiah Thomas because in his mind, he's saying, Isiah, you cannot get kicked out of this game. Oh, right now the series is 1-1. We have a chance to levy a very severe blow on the LA Lakers. And he understood, as many of the Pistons, I'm sure, understood, that the relationship between Isiah Thomas and Magic Johnson could explode and cost them a championship. So on both sides, both teams looked at the Magic Johnson-Isiah Thomas relationship as something that had to come to an end in order for either one of them to have a chance to win. And I'm sure none of Isiah Thomas's teammates came up to him in the locker room and said, Isiah, you have to stop fraternizing with Magic. But I'm sure that it was talk amongst them when he wasn't around that, this could cost us. We have to do something about this. And it wouldn't surprise me if Chuck Daly came to Isiah Thomas and may have tried to speak with him about the relationship that Isiah Thomas had with Magic Johnson. Because when you get to that level, that championship level in professional sports, it's the little things that make the difference between a champion and coming in second, especially with teams that are that close.
But I admired it because it was like, if you didn't do that,
Right.
your team was dead.
In other words, they were stale. The Lakers were stale by 88. Those of us who remember, they had like 2 7-game series even before getting to Detroit. I believe they had a 7-game series against Utah, who were a young and up-and-coming team with John Stockton and Karl Malone. And they had a 7-game series with the Mavericks, who had Derek Harper and Rolando Blackman and Sam Perkins and Mark Aguirre on that team the last year before Mark got traded to the Pistons. So they were stale. They really were. But they were very, very similar to one of Muhammad Ali's fights in the mid to late 70s, where he kind of got the decision on guile. The Lakers were able to win that 88 series when they really were not the better team. Detroit was really the better team. They just didn't understand how to win at that level yet.
And we knew it. And you knew it. Your team was dead. They weren't going to respond. But you responded.
Well, Pat Riley really responded through him.
With the physicality
Right.
on me.
Right.
And that inspired your team. And it took me a long time to understand, like, you had to make a choice between your Lakers and our friendship.
Absolutely. Like in that movie, The Highlander, there can be only one. And this is why I stated in one of the previous videos that I strongly believe that the reason why Magic was so open with the knowledge is because I don't really believe that he believed that Isiah Thomas and the Pistons would ever be a threat. You know, when he was having Isiah Thomas and Mark Aguirre come to his basketball camp and he was showing them certain techniques on how to win, I don't believe that he thought that they would ever be a threat. And if they ever were, by the time they were, both he and Larry Bird would probably be out of the league by then. So I don't think that he really took the Pistons very seriously. As a matter of fact, I believe if you watch the Bad Boys documentary, that James Worthy is on record as saying that the Lakers did not take the Pistons very seriously. So it took them a couple years to understand how great that team was, the Detroit Pistons. They were a great team.
Mm-hmm. And at that time, right, I'm still trying to get one of these, right?
Right.
You know how to get them.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I had been with all of you, you was like, it's the Lakers first.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't understand that. And emotionally, that like really hurt me.
Right.
That was the point of Pat Riley issuing the code red through Magic Johnson. That was purely psychological. He tapped into the Magic Johnson alter ego, the Magic Johnson personality alter. He had to get him off of Irvin and onto Magic, the super competitive, take no prisoners assassin, which is what Magic Johnson was, proverbially speaking. He had to make Isiah Thomas see Magic Johnson and not Irvin Johnson, the person who had all black eyes like a great white shark. That was necessary in order to cause that fracture in their relationship that would allow the Lakers to sneak in one last championship. Because Pat Riley understood that if he would have allowed them to continue on with the kissing and the hugging and hey, how you doing, and all that shit that was going on the court, not only would the Lakers have lost, but that may have caused irreparable damage in the locker room, with many of Magic's teammates being kind of bitter towards him for being so soft on Isiah Thomas. Please keep in mind that the Lakers won the championship in 1980, and there were still locker room issues between Magic and many of the other players because of perceived favoritism that he was receiving from Dr. Jerry Buss. So those things can happen. So Pat Riley really did Magic a favor in regards to his legacy.
Right.
But it also taught me, like, hey, you got to get it. It's about being a champion.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ain't willing to go after it, you ain't going to win it.
Right. Well, we have to remember, you guys were young, athletic,
and
physical, tough, hungry.
Yeah.
Super athletic, very fast at every position, both mentally and physically. Once again, the Pistons had 3 players who could play both point guard and shooting guard. Isiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, and Vinnie Johnson could play point guard or shooting guard. Depending on who was hot, they would allow that person to play the shooting guard. All 3 had great handle. Vinnie Johnson was the Jamal Crawford of his day. Great handle, could get hot, and could play the point if need be. So they were really the first team in NBA history that had 3 guards like that. They really played a modern style. Very, very difficult to deal with.
Yeah. And that was our only move. And we had to win game 3. See, we had to win game 3.
See, we didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right? See, when you're in the series now, see, like, you knew the formula. See, like, you know what I'm saying? When you coming in, like, Mikhail was like, go there and don't be happy just to be there. So we win game 1. We like, oh, man, we happy. You come back game 3 and it's like, I mean.
Well, I bet money that Joe Dumars and Bill Laimbeer are watching this interview and they're saying, speak for yourself. We knew we had to win game 3. Your ass was too busy making out at center court, French kissing this nigga cheek. We knew we had to win game 3. You didn't.
You know, the kiss was a kiss, but it wasn't really a kiss. It was like, you know what I got to do.
Yeah, it was a kiss of death.
You got to do it.
But I ain't understand. I'm like, hey, man. You know?
Yeah.
And boy, y'all came out, and every time y'all scored, it wasn't no high-fiving. It wasn't no nothing. It was just like pop, 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 pop. And for us the following year, it's like, okay, we learned.
Yeah.
But y'all put it on us.
But we had to. We had to win that game to make sure the series went back. Because you guys could do things we hadn't seen.
Exactly. That late 80s Pistons team, they were truly ahead of their time. They had a lot of players who could play various positions. The Lakers, of course, had Magic who could play pretty much 4 positions. But that Pistons team, they had, like I stated, they had 3 guards who were interchangeable. And then they had a player like Dennis Rodman, who's one of the great athletes to ever come through the NBA. Probably could have been a gold medal decathlete if he had pursued it, who could guard 4, 5 positions. Like people talk about LeBron James, like Dennis Rodman could legit guard 5 positions. He used to guard Larry Bird. He used to guard Magic Johnson. And as I've stated, Larry Bird would light him up because he was that great. Larry Bird would have no problem lighting up players in this era. None. He was 6'10". And shot the ball behind his head. You could not block his jump shot. Larry Bird would have had no problem in this era.
Championship teams do. Celtics, we knew, okay? We knew where they were going to be, who was going to be down low. They got the 2-headed monster, Larry Bird out front, Kevin Paris down low. We couldn't do nothing with Kevin McHale,
Right,
he was just... So we knew. But you guys, man, that bench was just very... we had enough to deal with you guys, right?
And let me also say this. Bill Laimbeer was probably the first stretch 5. Bill Laimbeer used to take 3-pointers from the top of the key, 7-foot center. He's the first guy doing that, man.
And we said, man, your bench, firepower, athletic.
I mean, you had centers back like in the late 70s, early 80s, like Jack Sigma and guys who could hit the J, but Bill Laimbeer used to spot up from the top of the key and stroke threes like nothing. And you brought in Mark Aguirre. You had John Sally. They really played a lot like the Golden State Warriors do today, except they got more responsible ball handling and point guard play from their guards. The Detroit Pistons did. Curry is of course a better shooter than any of those players, but very, very close, very, very similar styles of play.
Running, dunking, blocking shots, Robin and Sally. We were like, and Vinny Heat.
Did you see that? Vinny Johnson did the Euro step. Did you see that? Let me rewind it back.
Heat up, dunking, blocking shots, Robin and Sally. We were like, and Vinny Heat.
You see that? That Euro step ain't nothing new.
Heat up. I said, no, we got to score the same as the starters, but then we got to brace because that bench that y'all had. Sometimes God put us in positions and situations, and we have to figure it out ourselves, right? That was tough. That was a strain on our relationship. But it was great because we both won, and I was happy for you when you did win.
Yeah.
Well, I was just telling them that they earned it and deserved it. They played well, outstanding. We just couldn't contain them. Isiah said from the beginning, he told me that they had started off to win the best record, and they did that, and it helped them to have the home court advantage, and they had a chance.
And then to go back to back, what you guys did to Portland, it was like, wow.
Yeah, they ran through Portland, but Portland was just a dumb team. Super talented, but a dumb team.
Wow. That was crazy.
All right, so now Isiah Thomas is going to discuss the fall of the Detroit Pistons, and pay very close attention to what he says.
We had a great run, a lot of pride. We did so much for basketball, not only around this country, but for the Rust Belt and the city of Detroit. And I love those guys, and they accomplished a lot. It's a heavy burden to carry around for 2 or 3 years.
Most championship teams.
Now look at Mark Aguirre. Pay very close attention to what Mark Aguirre is saying. For years, Isiah Thomas has gotten the brunt of the blame for walking past the Chicago Bulls bench, Lambert is sitting back chilling. He already knows what he's going to do. And, of course, I believe Mark Aguirre knows what he's going to do. But pay very close attention to what he's saying to Isiah Thomas, because I'm reading his lips. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it on the screen well enough to read his lips. But he's telling Isiah Thomas, I'm not shaking them motherfuckers' hands. Fuck them. That's what he said to Isiah Thomas. I'm going to rewind it back.
The team stay together a long time.
In the city of Detroit, and I love those guys, and they accomplished a lot. It's a heavy burden to carry around for 2 or 3 years.
Most championship teams stay together a long time. What happened? Because we thinking now y'all about to go on a run, right? Back to back, and everybody young. So I never got a chance to ask you, and everybody else want to know too, what happened that it just broke up?
Now you see what Magic did there. Magic, like, really slickly asked Isiah Thomas, like, damn, how y'all fell off that fast? That's basically what he asking him. He's trying to act like he's asking a sincere question. He's basically saying, my reign lasted for 10, 11 years. You niggas only had 2 championships and fell off. And that's really not fair, because the Pistons truly were a title contender from the 86-87 season all the way to the 90-91 season. So it really wasn't 2 years. But the answer to the question is that they ran into the greatest player ever. But listen to what Isiah Thomas is going to say.
I had wrist surgery.
Okay.
After we won in 90, I'm possessed now, right?
Yeah, because it was your league then.
Yeah.
So we were fading. The Celtics had faded.
No, it wasn't their league. They had won 6 games with the Chicago Bulls, who were precocious in 1989. They won 6 games with them in 89. The Bulls were the only team to give them a run in 1989 because they swept the Lakers. They swept you, Magic. And then 1990, the Bulls took them 7. And the Pistons went to the finals, and they beat Portland in 5. And the one game that Portland won, I believe, was an overtime game. So they really, that really was a gentleman's sweep. So the Bulls were coming. So I don't want to hear nothing about no damn wrist. Chicago was coming. They just did not have the experience.
Baby.
And what I was saying to myself is, okay, y'all went back to back. We went back to back. Celtics didn't go back to back. So now it's like, okay, now we can three-peat.
Yeah.
Right? We can do something that the Celtics didn't do, the Lakers didn't do. Right? I had that gym in my house, and I shot every single day.
Now notice he says, I had the gym in my house and I shot every single day. That once again shows you what? Him and Magic were not working out in the off season anymore. Because if they were, then Magic would have known that already. You see what I'm saying? Magic was willing to share the secrets with him because he never thought that Isiah Thomas was going to sneak up on him like that.
And you know how we used to practice.
I know.
And I was shooting 14, 15 hours a day. I would eat.
Brother, no disrespect. You wasn't shooting no 14, 15 hours a day. Please stop.
Eat, shoot, eat, shoot, and maybe about 10 games, 15 games into the season, I wore my wrist out.
Yeah.
Just overshooting. So I went to the doctor, right?
Look at Magic face. Magic face like, nigga, please. Let me rewind this back.
Games into the season, I wore my wrist out.
Yeah.
Just overshoot.
Look at Magic face. Magic is thinking, this nigga's still making excuses.
Overshooting. So I went to the doctor, right? The doctor looked at it and he's like, we got to do surgery on your wrist. I was like,
well, to let a lot of people tell it, your wrist been broke for a while, Isiah. You got 2 sons with broken wrists. I guess that shit is genetic.
it'd be all right. Just sprain it.
And that's you too.
Put some tape on it. You know me.
And that's you.
And he's like, no. He said, if you bend this wrist one more time,
oh wow,
it ain't never coming back. So they cut my wrist open, and I missed maybe 52 games in '91. Then came back for the playoffs, won the same, but we get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and back in our day, the wounded, you kill the wounded. And Jordan and Pippen, them, every time they saw my wrist, they was That's what happened.
And then it was.
And they were also just a better team, and Jordan was the better player. And your time came to an end. Your rulership came to an end like all kingdoms do, brother. You were the greatest little man to ever play, but your time came to an end. Let's be for real. If Scottie Pippen hadn't had that migraine, you might have lost in 1990. You guys won 7 games with that Bulls team in 1990. Don't tell me that you lost in 91 because of your damn wrist. Even if you were fully healthy with a perfect wrist, maybe you would have won 1 game in that series. The Bulls were so much faster than them, man. You could tell the difference in their physiques from 1990 to 91 that they had been hitting the gym. They had been hitting the weights. They were not going to allow Detroit to bully them anymore. It was just their time.
And then it was their turn.
Exactly.
It was their turn, and it was that good.
But
now pay attention to Jordan. When Jordan come and shake Isiah Thomas's hand, he won't even make eye contact with him. There was some serious vitriol between them.
you taught him how to win.
Pay attention when Jordan shake Isiah Thomas's hand.
That's what happened.
And then it was their turn.
It was their turn, and it was that good.
But you taught them how to win.
Well,
The Pistons taught them how to win. No, I'm saying it. You don't have,
It's the truth. Jordan's come out and said it, that they learned how to win from the Pistons. It's the truth.
you don't have to say it. I'm saying it because that's the truth. You know, you learn from other teams how to win.
and I still say this to this day. If my wrist wasn't messed up,
The series would have won 4.5 games.
I'd have got him. Just like you said, if your hamstring wasn't messed up, you would have got up, right? And probably would have.
And that's what everybody should think. As winners,
That's how it goes.
that's how it goes.
You were great teachers for us, and we were supposed to dominate, but injuries happen.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
and-
part of it.
Look, Isiah Thomas, you did dominate. You were able to get to 3 straight finals. You won back-to-back. That's domination. You guys' team wasn't built to dominate with all you guys going into your 30s. You were too small. When you were younger, yes, you could dominate because you could use your speed and, you know, your explosiveness. But when you guys got 29, 30 years old, too many long runs in the playoffs, and you guys wasn't built that way because you just didn't have the size. Detroit beat teams through intelligence and execution and great guard play. But they were not built to dominate teams with all their guys turning 31, 32, 33. Not like the Bulls were, with that triangle and with size like they had. So they were not built to age. It is what it is. But let's not act like the Pistons were old, because they were not old. And even Magic stated it himself. He said all you guys were still relatively young, 29, 30 years old. But they were not built to age. So now Magic and Isiah are going to talk about one of the more controversial aspects of their relationship, which is why they kiss each other on the cheek.
You didn't just thank him right and left. I told Tom that
Unfortunately, we've had all public ups and downs, but what people don't realize is that, you know, since 18, we've been on this public stage, right? And unfortunately, you know, all our love and joy, you know, pain and hurt, you know, gets to be viewed through the microscope.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to bring you back to the kiss. Did you ever think the kiss would be on a poster?
I know.
In the middle of Los Angeles, right?
But remember why we started? Remember we used to see the Italian families greet each other like that, remember?
And
Yes, and the Italian families, they get that from the Middle Ages. Remember, at one time, Italy was ruled by so-called blacks, known as the Lombards, right, or the Longobards. That term means longbeards. They were also ruled over by the Normans, who were so-called black people, by the way. The Normans were so-called black. Okay? They were Vikings. But that's a whole other video for another day. But that is where that custom comes from. As I stated in the scriptures, it tells you to greet each other with a holy kiss. Remember, in the ancient cultures, everything was not as sexualized, or there was not an implication of sex with everything that someone did like there is today. So to me, I don't really harp too much on that. I'm not saying that they were or were not in a sexual relationship with each other. That to me is, it's whatever. No, in that world, in that entertainment world, the sports world, there is an element of pansexuality there. There's no doubt about that. But I don't have enough empirical data to speak with certainty. The only thing that I will say is that the fact that this cat here has 2 homosexual sons and Magic has basically a pre-op transgender kind of tells me that they both have bad karma for whatever reason in regards to their sexual indiscretions.
Remember? And in our families,
exactly. Our families became close. And we was like, we're good. We can do it. Now everybody was like, what they doing?
Well, I wasn't going to meet you anymore and say,
yeah, exactly.
Hi,
Exactly.
how you doing? It's really good to see you.
They both have a good sense of humor. Imagine that, a nigga for 20 years, you're like blood brothers and y'all got to shake hands like that. It is what it is, man.
And that's what we could be friends. We could show male affection toward each other and go out and do our job and do what we were supposed to do. Lynn, your wife, Cookie, my wife, were friends, tight as well. We all used to go on vacation together.
Yeah, probably go on orgies together too.
Remember when we go to Hawaii, dominate in pool, volleyball?
Now, why they gotta show this photo for? This man has some tight ass black drawers, throwing a football. Come on, man.
Volleyball. Oh man, the times we had.
Yeah, I bet. Maybe that photo is meant to imply something. Who the hell knows? But who goes out to Hawaii playing football in some skivvies like that?
Look at our lives. Okay, we went through the basketball thing. We both win the championships. We retire. And what people don't know, we're both in business.
Yeah.
We both been on TV.
And hey, that's a great thing that they're both in business and that they're both successful. All right. That's the true moral of the story, is that, even though they separated for a long time, they were both able to make something of themselves post basketball and not descend into depression and things like that. That really speaks highly of both of their intellect. All right, so now they're going to close out the interview. Let's see what happens.
And also, too, you have to remember, you and I were the leaders back then.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Well, let me say this. I think that in the Eastern Conference, Dr. J was really looked at as the ambassador for the NBA until he retired. And then I would say that Isiah Thomas, as the lead point guard, I can understand why Magic would say that they were both the leaders. Isiah Thomas definitely was viewed in a high-level position, but really not until the late 80s did he kind of ascend to that level. Well, that's definitely understandable why Magic would make that assertion. But to me, Dr. J was viewed as the ambassador for the league, for the entire NBA, especially for the Eastern Conference, though, in the early to mid-'80s, until he retired in '87.
We both didn't know it, but now we know it. Just like Pat Riley used to tell me, he said, Irvin, you're not going to even know the impact and the effect that you had or enjoy the winning until after it's over.
Yeah.
And he was right. We were in the moment. Our lives have paralleled each other. We were leaders, even in the league. We helped change the All-Star Weekend. We helped change a lot of different things within the league. And now we helping young men understand also two social causes. Back then, you and I were the leaders of that, whatever issues they were. And so what guys are doing now, we were already doing. Yet it was a smaller scale. We didn't have social media. We didn't have all the things to blow it up. But I would say to you, this has been a tremendous day, right? My wife, my mother, my father have been saying, y'all need to get back together.
Yeah.
So when everybody called, I said, no question, we're going to do this. And just to sit across from you and have relive those moments of fun, excellence, working hard, dreaming big, because we were dreaming moments before we were even. Who stood up at 19, 20, 21 dreaming of stuff we wanted to do, and now here we are doing it, you know. But you are my brother. Let me apologize to you if I hurt you, that we haven't been together. And God is good to bring us back together. Am I right? I know, man. It hurt me too. Come here, man.
Let me say this. You could tell, as Magic was speaking, that Isiah was trying to keep from breaking down for a long time. And then as Magic was taking the both of them down down memory lane, you could see that Isiah couldn't hold it. And then once Magic apologized, it was like, that's what Isiah was waiting for. I mean, let me say this. You have people in your life that love you dearly and you guys fall off for whatever reason. And proverbially speaking, they're sitting by the phone for 25, 30, 35 years waiting for you to call them or apologize. Proverbially speaking. So, in life, sometimes the Most High brings people into your life, whether it's somebody of the opposite sex, somebody of the same gender, that for whatever reason, your spirits are knit. You feel like you finish each other's sentences. The scriptures tell you that there's a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. I mean, it wasn't a surprise that this interview culminated in so much emotion. And that's why it's a great thing that they were able to reclaim their relationship.
It's all good, baby. Okay? It's all good. It's crazy. It's one of those things like we had to go through, but we through it, brother. Okay? I'll always be here. Oh, come on, man. I always know. I know. I'm still mad that you beat me. You gonna be mad. We both gonna be mad.
But anyway, that was certainly a great interview. It's great to see the brothers come back together. It's going to be great for Isiah Thomas's psychological and mental health, both for their mental health. Also great for Isiah Thomas's career, that him and Magic are on better terms. And it's great for the NBA, man. And it's also a good example for so-called black men who have had their spirits knit as great friends, great comrades, to try to repair whatever breach may be or may have been made in their relationship. We can all take a lesson from that. There's no doubt about that. But anyway,